got up here and why what we've done over here with the altcoin market is exactly that before we go into the correction. This was a reference that was made a lot during the past to understand what these corrections look like. This is actually from back in 2017 down here on the bottom for crypto, for Bitcoin, going from May all the way to July. Notice the price behavior of how it gets above the highs up here now. Notice these highs of how it gets above, and then we go into correction, and like what we were looking for back in 2017, to emerge here in 2021, it just never ended up panning itself out. However, here in 2024, it actually has. We've seen exactly that play itself out to get back into the retracement levels and then shuffle its way back down again, which tells me that we are actually in a very standard normal correction that's happening here for the cryptocurrency market. Many times it took a lot of price action to play out before we can end up getting anything to become crystal clear. Now, we've got enough data here on the charts for us to be able to pretty clearly see that we're in a correction, but we really haven't finished it yet. So the positive thing about this correction is that they're typically continuation structures. For me, a little bit of sigh of relief knowing where we're at with the retracement. This is a big question mark on what happens to markets after that, and waiting for something familiar to start to materialize to build some confidence or some concerns on which direction we're heading to next. But now we're creating a very common correction to happen, and we see all the structures really starting to emerge their way out in here, but we just have a little ways to go. So it's kind of like a mix of two different things. It's good news because this type of structure tends to go into a continuation higher, but the bad news is that it's not done, and that there's still more to come, and then that there's that event that typically scares the crud out of most participants in the market, which is referred to as capitulation, in which price eventually goes full blown back to the lows and scares the living daylights out of the market, where participants will sell out at the lows, thinking that it's all over, we're done, we're crashing, we give you up, game over. I know this because I've been through many of these before. I went through this one back in the spring and summertime of 2017. And so what I see here is I see a very clear corrective structure forming. What I also see is that there's still more to go with it. There's still a capitulation period that has to come. But at the same time, these types of corrections can lead to continuations to happen to the upside. So for me, I look at that in the light of being like, man, I've been really unsettled of being back at these retracement levels, but now I see something that makes me way more optimistic that we have a pretty clear corrective structure starting to form right in here. However, we're not done with it. So the big takeaway from it all is that this is positive, right? These are typical corrections that lead to continuation. That's good news. This has been incredibly stressful being back at these levels, but fortunately we're making something that looks very, very familiar and very normal for a continuation correction. But we're going to talk about it real quick. Just not a whole lot to do with us drawing on charts or anything like that, but just talking about what it's like to go through these types of things. Is that one, there could still be quite a bit of time left on this thing. We could still have weeks left on this before this ends up playing out. It's very difficult to be able to predict. Just to give you kind of a gauge of where we're at right now, where we at 27 days into this thing, and here when you were 27 days in, kind of give you an idea of where you were. Right, the whole thing ended up taking a total of 51 days. If you were going to do something like that, out to like the first week of May. So just kind of giving you a ballpark idea on this. If you kind of kept moving at that same pace, that you still have really just the rest of April, and a lot of it would probably be boring if we do just kind of grind sideways, holding on top of a support for some time before finally starts ending up going. But also to kind of mentally prepare what it's like when we go through capitulation in a correction. And again, this isn't a giant range. This whole thing is just zoomed out just like that. But for some reason, something happens in the market where max pain is inflicted, enough time passes by. That's usually the thing that kills people is enough time, enough optimism builds up, and then things go the opposite way. And then things get aggressive to the downside. And then a lot of times we'll end up seeing some type of narrative come along with it too that ends up creating a whole lot of more fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We see that a lot. We even saw the SEC time a couple of things in the correction last year. When we were in this correction, the SEC went after Coinbase and after Binance after we had already spent a couple of months correcting and then right there, right at the very end. That's where they go after financing Coinbase. So it created a lot of fear in the market. So enough time elapsed, and then the narrative came out, and then that was just the breaking point for a lot of people. So the way these things typically play out is we typically just kind of continue waddling sideways for a couple of weeks, and then eventually the bigger break comes, things get pretty aggressive. And then like we talked about on the XRP price chart, if you were here for this moment just a couple of months ago, that when this first initial low came in here and we bounced back up, I talked a lot about capitulations and how they work, and that typically the bottom, when people think it's the actual bottom, it's actually not quite it yet. And then we typically have like 5 ways to take us down to get some type of bounce to emerge out of here. So when the market thinks that we're done, and they're like, "Oop, that's it. That's the biggest bounce that we've seen." But then there's one more that comes and absolutely flushes, and that's the one that really scares people. That's the one that really capitulates them, and that's how it goes. You would expect to see altcoins and various altcoins taking 40%, negative, whatever, complete fear, complete goblin town. It's over. The gig's up. We're all done. And absolute fear and chaos in that moment, and then it just reverses out, leaving those who sold the bottom behind. And like, so as we move forward in these coming weeks, this is my sincere view of what is coming up, is that we're probably going to be boring for a couple of weeks, right? A lot of optimism about the block reward having coming up for Bitcoin, and a lot of questions, and there we go. And then if the price does this, which it looks like it's going to, because this is a normal corrective structure, we'll have the narrative attached to it to say, hey, this is the post-halving crash. Then you're going to see everybody referencing to what post-halving crashes look like for Bitcoin, and that it'll take months to recover, and that we typically fall this percent, and totally referencing to the post-halving crash, but it has nothing to do with it. It's just a corrective structure, and likely these things tend to end in V-bottoms. So for me, back at the retracements, I built a very nice cash pile. I'm sitting on the sidelines with that cash, wondering, am I going to end up throwing it in because Ethereum's going to end up breaking above all retracement levels and get going, or the altcoin market's going to go, or it's going to crash? Where would it be? Where would the place be that I would end up entering it in? And right now, I see a setup that's coming that leads me to be optimistic. That is likely where it's going in at. But we still are just going to be in a hold period waiting for this to come. And to kind of mentally prepare for it is the way I'm looking at it, that this is what a continuation structure looks like. However, we haven't gotten through the nasty part of it yet. And that's approaching soon. Whether that's a week, 2 weeks, 3, 4, 5, whatever. That's typically the next phase of this. And so as we get closer to it and as time comes, if we start to see it emerge, the thing we're really going to be looking for in here when we start heading down, if that happens, is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to look for a bounce to show up in here where everybody's going to think the bottom is in, and there's going to be one more flash that will scare the crud out of the market, and that'll be it. And then all eyes on the market cap to see if we break it. So I'm very optimistic on what I see in regards to a continuation structure emerging from this correction, which hopefully is welcomed as a change of tune because I've been so uneasy here. So on a longer time frame, I'm a little bit more optimistic than I have been, but on a shorter time frame of right now, I think we're going to work our way into a correction that's going to scare the market a little bit. But for those of you who have cash on the sidelines and been waiting for this moment, it's probably going to be an opportunity, and it will be for me. But I hope you enjoyed seeing this. Hope you enjoyed seeing corrective structures. When we're trying to build these things, everybody's looking for something to show up in here when all we've got on the chart is, to right here, right? There's just not enough development or range for us to have a really clear picture. But now that we've gotten all of this show up in here, now that we've got all of these retraces that are happening here, these are phases that we should be having them happen at, now it's getting more clear. So as we say, that we're still in the correction, the situation is still going to come over here, but that this type of correction is a continuation correction. So that's the thing that's optimistic. That's the thing that's exciting. It just means we have a little bit of time left on our hands here, but that opportunity may be showing up in the near future. And then, come on, baby, knock it out. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you something to look at and think about when it comes to the markets and where we're at right now. I think there's a little bit more optimism for myself, which I've definitely been wanting with how uneasy and nervous I've been back at these situations. I hope this is something familiar, really starting to develop it. That's exciting for me. We'll keep an eye on it for the coming weeks and how it starts to go and develop and play out. And if it plays out as land, well, then we will track it every step of the way and just bring it to the rooftop when it does. Otherwise, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you're looking for something to do in the meantime, of course, you can check out my website over here, which is bcbacker.com. It's got over 40 videos and over 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and Coin Trader Pro and do your own charting, teaching you about Wyckoff accumulation, distribution, and also way theory and a lot of historical behavior of the crypto market. The downloadable PDF in here with supplemental information to go with a lot of these different sections in here. You can check this out on bcbacker.com. I do also write a newsletter over here, put out 2 newsletters every month right here on Substack, blockchainfactory.substack.com. Most recent one in here is talking a lot about these retraces, the positive things going for crypto, the negative things going on in the macro environment, how it's such a complicated area that we're in right now, which as you can even see right now, you just saw the inflation data come out today. Our inflation is missing the expectations and it's screaming, oh my goodness, that isn't going to cut. A lot of complications in the market. We talk a lot about it, but not just the bearish stuff. There's lots of bearish stuff at the same time. So check out the most recent newsletter over there on blockchainfactory.substack.com. There's also a lot of research in there about activity levels, altcoin performance in regards to developer activity, and case studies that are put together over there. There's links in the descriptions of each of my videos to bcbacker.com and to my Substack at blockchainfactory.substack.com. Otherwise, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice. I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick me up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers.
Gotcha.
Planning one side. I think we're trying to see if we can get something earlier. I want to see. Let's 6-0. Let's go. We'll find something away. I think because. Can we get some more? Not on that. Is there can you like guidance through the right side on? The thing? Here, I have one second.
We're not worth just go station side and come out we're not, we're gonna have to skip the step. Let's go station. We're running to go to the step. Good idea, good idea. We get close enough to evac to this on here. After you put the Evo down, or take the Evo, just pop the evac in front of you. You're able to make it there. They're walking in the truck. Go down. I'm standing over there. They're gonna walk in there. We want to beat them to my thing if we can. Oh, they already beat us. They might have looked at this building. I think they're fighting that team over there. They might walk into this. They left this spot. Someone might walk into the left. Watch the barrels. They're in our back. I'm off their back, yes, look. I don't have I have a trick. Alex. Hold it down, hold it down. Underneath us. Underneath us. 130, 130. Jumping down this fucker. Hold up for it. Yes. Yeah, look over me. Just look over me. The guy has fuck. I have one bat. I have fuck all that guy. How many was down? One. I'm going knock one in. $65 off blue. I mean, do you have a long range? I'm usually goes long when I get fucking that's not here. One more shot. No, so one more here. 1 minute left. You want the 3X on my matic? You don't have to put barrels in this, by the way. Really barrels. Evac coming down southeast. Put them in, yeah, put them in the alleyway, you know where to slide to that. Cycling sugar side. Right. Yeah, that's what we got, we gotta get the scrappers. They were good, right? Whether it's like, Megan?
I will break my wing. You'll die.